And we are recording. Okay. So attendees can start signing in, and then we'll get this party started.
Are you going to start it, Deidre?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Just 2 seconds here.
So, Miss Connie, what is it I hear that you have done?
That I've done a bad thing.
Yeah, to us.
Yeah, I'll be around if y'all need some help, but I feel like y'all need somebody that can do more than what I'm able to do right now. Y'all need more help than I can.
Yes, we do, but we certainly have appreciated having you on here. We depend on you to do the question and answers. So maybe we won't ask you, if necessary, we'll need somebody to do that. We'll have you do it if necessary, and
okay,
because that's an important part too.
Well, anything I can do to help.
I know.
Thank you, Connie.
Yes, we appreciate you. Good morning, sunshine.
Okay, guys, it is 1 minute. 1 minute. Give people some more time. Hey, Miss Frankie. Okay, you know what? I need these. I was trying to feel young. All right, and we are going to get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 1 Million Cups Fort Worth. We are so happy that you took time out of your busy day for yet another interesting Zoom performance. So I am going to get ready to share my screen as people sign in and tell you a little bit about 1 Million Cups. So, what is going on here and there? Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome sauce. Okay, 1 Million Cups was founded by the Kauffman Foundation in 2012. 1 Million Cups is based on the notion that entrepreneurs come to connect, engage, and why is my screen not moving? All right. To connect, engage, and increase opportunities because we are all risk takers. We all want to be successful and we all want to support one another. So with that being said, the mission of 1 Million Cups is to lower the barriers to access to educational resources. So our goal is to help provide those resources for entrepreneurs because many entrepreneurs feel like they're out there all alone and they don't know what resources to ask for. We are national and local. So we are all over the United States and in other countries known as Startup Huddle. We have 160 plus communities that meet across the United States at 9 a.m. So that's where we get the name 1 Million Cups. That's why I like to think. Our key pillars are presentations, not pitches. There's a big, big difference. Presentations are where you're educating on what your services provide, your products or services provide. Pitches are you asking for money, you're asking for referrals, or anything like that. That's not how we work. We're not Shark Tank. Our core program is held every Wednesday morning. We usually have 2 presenters that have 6 minutes each, and then they get 20 minutes of Q&A. Every once in a while, we bring you a special presentation as we're doing today, which is an educational platform from one of our very own core community navigators. Again, we usually have not sales pitches, but presentations. So it's not a place that you ask for money for investors or referrals. We are about education and connections and resources. So without further ado, my name is Deidre Kindred. I'm one of the organizers for 1 Million Cups. I'm going to introduce some of our other organizers. We have Sandra Barron, better known as Thelma. We have Joseph Barron, better known as He Drives Miss Daisy. So Sandra has several names. We have Connie Allison, who handles our Q&A portion of our segment. We also have William Sampson. He is going to be our amazing presenter, educational presenter today. We also have Steve Rosenbaum. He provides our platform for this Zoom webinar. We have Frankie Simmons. Where did Frankie go? She's an organizer also. There she is. Christopher Barron with One Stop Printing. He is not present yet, but he's another organizer. And
he is Christopher Bronner.
Did I give him to you guys again?
Yeah, you did.
Well, you know.
As long as he doesn't take up much room or eat a lot, we're okay.
Well, he's a pretty big guy.
Yes.
Let's see, who am I forgetting? LeBeau with LeBeau Productions or LeBeau Labs. She is also a wonderful organizer that helps us with our marketing. So today we have a special presentation. We have William Sampson. He is going to be talking about emotional intelligence. He is an awesome John Maxwell certified speaker and educator. He's going to have as much time as he wants because this is an educational platform today, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A led by Miss Connie. And without further ado, William, you're on.
Well, good morning. Thank you. Let me try and share my screen here. There we go. I love it when before I start congratulating myself, let's try slideshow from the start. There we go. You guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. Well, what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is basically, with what's going on in the world right now with COVID, everybody's kind of underfoot. We've got the kids that are back in school, but they're not really back in school. They're still, stuck in a closet somewhere with a device, and they're supposed to be, studying and doing what, their schoolwork. But maybe they are, and maybe they're not. So a little bit about myself, and then I'll jump into it. My name's William Sampson. Like Deidre said, I'm an executive director with the John Maxwell team. I build better humans. My belief is that self-awareness and emotional intelligence are the building block of every relationship that we'll ever have, both personally and professionally. And until we're the best version of ourselves, we can't be that person that those people that around us that depend on us need us to be. And you can't give something that you don't have. So I kind of think about when you get on an airplane and they're doing the pre-flight debrief, and they say, put your mask on first before you put it on somebody next to you that may need your assistance. Same kind of thing. You can't give something that you don't already have. So, self-awareness is just about being aware of who we are. But emotional intelligence is the ability to understand how our emotions impact our ability to make decisions, to connect with other people, to lead, or just have a simple conversation. The seed for me was really planted with personal development with a conversation I had with my dad when I was in high school. My parents divorced when I was 11. And so my dad and brother and I would go to Mexico each year sometime around the holidays and just do a long weekend ski trip. And it was coming back from one of those trips where my dad and I were having this conversation. It's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We're driving through the middle of nowhere. And he was sharing with me that the relationship that he and my grandfather had was never good. And I never knew this as a kid growing up because we lived in town. My grandfather lived out at the farm, and that was in Maryland. And then when I was, in elementary school, we moved to Texas. So I never really understood the dynamics between my dad and my grandfather's relationship. But he said, William, by the time I developed enough emotional intelligence to understand that I was a big part of the problem, your grandfather had passed, and I was never able to rectify that relationship. He said, so I've worked really hard on myself to try to be a better communicator so that I have a better relationship with you and your brother than I had with my father. So that was kind of the seed planted for me. I've been a lifelong learner. I've listened to, you know, the Tom Hopkins and the Stephen Coveys and the John Maxwells and Zig Ziglars for more years than I'm going to admit on camera. So anyway, with that all said, you know, we'd like to think that this is what life looks like for everybody. Everybody's happy. You know, this is what's going on at our house. This is what's going on at everybody else's house. Everybody's getting along. It's all peace and, you know, candy and unicorns. But one of the things is that we tend to judge ourselves on what we know our weaknesses and failures are, and we tend to judge other people on what we see as the highlight reel. So I think, you know, social media does us a tremendous injustice because that's what we see is we see everybody else's highlight reel, but we don't see that, you know, the fact of the matter is things are just crazy everywhere, not just in our house, but everywhere. So, you know, like I said earlier, trying to be that loving parent in today's world where we're trying to do our jobs, you know, maybe our spouse is at home and we've got a couple of kids. I've got a really good friend of mine that lives over in Plano that's got 3 kids. She's just started her own business and trying to do that out of the house and also be a mom, be a business owner and be a substitute teacher, you know, for her 3 kids. So this craziness really exists everywhere. So part of what we're going to learn today is some tips and techniques on how to understand our kids better and how to be able to connect with them, communicate with them. So we'll look at, this is all based on DISC method of behavioral analysis. So, you know, hopefully at the end of this, we'll be able to really give you guys some things where you can connect better with your kids. So like I said, this is all based on DISC. And for those of you that are not familiar with DISC, if we look at the history of study of human behavior going back literally 4 centuries BC, all the way through modern times, interestingly enough, the people that have studied this have come up with it, called it different things, but every time they've come up with 4 distinct separate styles. I work with DISC because it's easy to understand and articulate, and it's a really powerful tool. But basically, Dr. Marston, in his doctoral thesis, which was titled "The Emotions of Normal People" in 1928, came up with 4 styles that he calls dominance, influencing, steady, and compliant. And also an interesting fact about Dr. Marston was he was also the one that developed the Wonder Woman character for DC Comics. So basically what that is there's 2 sets of questions that I talk to people about when we're discussing DISC or behavioral analysis. And when I've got a live crowd in front of me, I'll actually get the group up and move them around the room so that they see the different people, especially when we're doing this as a team building activity within our organization, so each person within the organization sees the personality styles of the other people. So basically, the first question is, do you feel like you're more outgoing or do you feel like you're more reserved? And the more outgoing people, you know, I think about if you're getting on an elevator and you're standing there waiting for it, do you hope that there's somebody else on the elevator that you can talk to and have a conversation with? Or do you hope that the elevator's empty and you're just going to get on, get downstairs, get in your car and go home? And these can be situational and they can be close. They can be, you know, 51%, 49%. But if you identify as being a little bit more outgoing, then you would be on the top part of the chart. So the second question is whether you feel like you're more task oriented or more relational. And I use the thought process on this one about if you're going on vacation. If you're the person before you go on vacation, you've got a 60-day checklist, a 30-day checklist, a 2-week checklist, a week before checklist. You know who's taking care of the dog, the paper, the yard. All of those things are buttoned up before you go. Then you're probably more task oriented. Now, if you're the kind of person that, like myself, you know, where am I going? What am I going to do? What am I going to eat? What am I going to see? Who am I going to see? Then you're probably more relational. So when we break these down, the people that are more outgoing and task-oriented, those are what we're going to call the Ds, the dominant folks, the drivers. They're very decisive. They're results oriented. They want to know what we're doing, what's going on. Fortunately, they only make up about 3% of the overall population. Because can you imagine if we had a world full of people that were everybody wanted to be in charge? it would be a little disconcerting. So the next personality style, the other outgoing personality style, and as we go through this, you'll probably figure out this is mine, is what we call the eyes or the influencers. That group is, we're people oriented, we're outgoing, we're very spontaneous, we're great at getting things started, we're not really good at getting things finished. We need to work really well with C's or S's that help us finish those jobs. So interestingly enough, if you look at that, in the overall population, only about 14% of the overall population is outgoing. And one of the things that we outgoing people need to understand is that the vast majority of people are not outgoing like we are. And sometimes we can kind of run over them if we're not careful. So I always talk about you can't be aware of something until you're aware of it. And understanding these things about ourselves and those people around us makes us aware of it. And then we can be aware of behaviors and habits that we have and that they have that may be conflicting. So especially with everybody, being underfoot right now, this is a really great topic to understand and internalize. Because unfortunately, the sad part of this is that we're seeing instances of domestic violence and child abuse and things like that just spiking and skyrocketing. And largely that's due to the fact that a lot of people don't have that self-awareness and emotional intelligence to understand how they respond under stress or pressure. And rather than being able to talk about it and articulate their feelings, they get primal. They start, they're short. They're not. They don't deal well with other people, or worse, they throw things or hit people or do things that are not just, the unspeakable things. So hopefully, becoming aware of these things and helps us understand, how to manage our own emotions and also how to understand the emotions of other people. So as we get to the more reserved personality styles, that reserved personality style that's still really people oriented, they're what we call the S's or the steadies. They make up almost 70% of the population. So if you think about it, 7 out of 10 people that you run across, they're reserved, but they're really outgoing and fun and happy. They're the people that get the work done. We talked about the D's being, we want to know what's going on. The I's, we want to know who we're doing it with. The S's, they want to know why. And if you give somebody that's an S-wired personality style a why and ask them to buckle down and do a job for you, and just tell them, look, we're going to take care of any of the squelch or the noise. I just need you to buckle down and get this done. They will charge hell with a squirt gun for you. They're very team-oriented, great follow-through, super loyal. They are the absolute nicest people that you ever know. And I've got a really good friend of mine who's, every time I talk about this personality style, I see Carolyn's face just pop into my brain. We're all visual by nature, but I'm kind of hyper that way. And I just see Carolyn. She's one of these people that's so nice that if you go to her house and you bring dessert for dinner, she's going to write you a thank you note. Then the last personality style is that reserved, task-oriented style. This was my dad. So he was flew for the Navy, engineer with IBM for 30 years, very much that inside the box, that analytical, very compliant. These are your CPAs, your engineers. They're all about the details. They're the ones that want to know how. How are we going to get this done? And as you can imagine, with my dad being an S and me being an I, when I was a kid, we butted heads a lot. My mom was an S, so if I wanted to go do something and I would ask Mom, basically she wanted to know as long as I was going to be home for dinner and I wasn't going to be bleeding when I got home, I could pretty much do it. And then my dad, he wanted to know where I was going, who I was going with, what time I was going to go, what time I was going to be back, was it going to cost anything, was it going to be safe? It's like, forget it, I'll go ask Mom. So those are the basics of the personality styles. Now, some of the fears of each one of the styles, that D personality style, their greatest fear is being taken advantage of. And it can be either in a business deal, or it can be where they feel like somebody's disloyal to them. And if they feel like they're being taken advantage of, they tend to bear down and be more controlling. The I personality style, our biggest fear is losing approval or being rejected. The worst thing that somebody can do to me is just not pay attention to me. We tend to be more outgoing and verbose if we feel that happening. The S personality style, their greatest fear is loss of security or confrontation. So if you've got an S personality style in your company, for example, and you're gonna move the office around, do not go in on the weekend and change things up and expect them to be okay on Monday if their desk is 2 spaces over from where it was on Friday. The other thing is they don't like confrontation. So they tend to sometimes be passive aggressive. If they'll continue to take it and take it and take it, especially if they're dealing with a D personality style that just keeps dumping on them. You get this done, get this done, get this done. And at some point in time, they're going to go, look, I've had enough, and boom. So again, and then the S personality style, their fear is criticism. So, that being that very compliant, analytical, planner type mentality, they're going to suffer largely from paralysis of analysis. They're not going to make a decision until they make sure they've got all the facts. They've checked all the boxes. They've crossed all the T's. They've dotted all the I's, because they're not going to make a decision that they're going to be criticized for. So that's kind of the basics of each one of the personality styles. Now, if we look at, oops, come on. There we go. Okay, so the D personality style, like I said, their behaviors, they're just that born leader. They're the ones that, they want to be in charge. They want to own it or run it. They're very dynamic, decisive, goal-oriented. They're looking for good solutions. They do really well in crisis because they think on their feet really well. Some of the stress signals, so any strength that's that's overused can become sometimes a negative. So, when they're under stress, they may be more resistant. They, like I said earlier, if they feel like they're being taken advantage of, they're just going to bear down and be more difficult. They can come off as being rebellious or angry, demanding or controlling. So, how to motivate them? Give them something to be in charge of. So if you've got a child that's wired this way, give them a task. Help them understand. I need your help in this. This is something you can do, and let them be in charge of something. This will be a great way to connect with them and to motivate them. Some things to speak into them. Just talk to them about how you appreciate their confidence. So like the way they make up their mind, they stick to it and they go get something done, and how they're well committed and they're decisive. Interesting. There we go. Okay. The I personality styles. They're the outgoing. They're the ones that volunteer for everything. If you got a bake sale, find an I to get in charge of it, or at least to get it started. They're great at volunteering things. Sometimes we will overcommit, which at some point, if we overcommit, it makes it difficult to deliver on all of our promises. Very social, makes friends really easily, tend to be emotional. One of the things I talk to people about is if you don't know somebody's personality style, to live life right to left, when we looked at the grid, the relational personality styles, the I's and the S's are on the right-hand side, and the task-oriented is on the left. So if you don't know how somebody's wired to start with, I say live life right to left. Start on the right-hand side. Start by being more relational. Because if you're dealing with somebody who's highly task-oriented, they'll deal with that for a little while. But they'll say, let's speed this up. And you once you start getting that vibe, then you can pick up the pace and go right to the issue. But if you find somebody that's very people-oriented, and you start right in on the details and the job and what we need to get done, they will tend to shut down because they need that emotional connection to be able to feel like they can trust somebody. So the I personality style: emotional, inspirational, creative, talkative. You might figure out, like I said earlier, that this is my personality style. Under stress, we can kind of get hyper. We can be a little impatient, a little louder. We may seek attention, even if it's not the best kind of attention. And again, big emotional sways. How to motivate them? Give them an opportunity to socialize. During COVID and the lockdown, if anybody needed something from the store, I'm the first one to volunteer. Look, I'll go get it. Being confined to my apartment, although I like my apartment, it's nice and big. It isn't big enough. So I live here on the south side, so I'll go out and walk around, and even if it's just I see homeless people, I just to be out and to physically see other human beings and just to smile and say hi to them. So ways to connect with them: just talk about how much fun they are to be with, how friendly they are, and how much you appreciate their enthusiasm. So these are things that parents can do for their kids to help them connect with them. But I tell folks, we're all kids of just different sizes. So if you see these personality styles and traits in our kids, it's the same in us, and it's the same in our spouses, our siblings, our parents. We're all different, but we're predictably different. So when we start to be aware of these types of personality styles, it's gonna help you connect with anybody, regardless of what your relationship to them is. So those are the two outgoing styles. As we get into the more reserved styles, this is the S. They're very easygoing. They're well balanced. I talked to a friend of mine who and there's hundreds of different companies or people that do training that's based on DISC, and they call it different things. One of them is they'll talk about different breeds of dogs, and I don't remember the other three, but this one I remember this is the golden retriever. They're just the nicest people in the room. They're very agreeable, good listeners, always helpful, consistent, reliable. Stress signals: submissive or stubborn, depending on the threat to their security. They may reach out when they're, they may not be able to get out and see people, but they're going to be on the phone with folks. They're going to be in constant contact with people as they get stressed out. And they're going to go out. These are the peacemakers. They're going to go, because they don't like confrontation, they're going to go out of the way to make sure that all the water's calm. Great way to motivate them is just help them understand, give them that why, and help them understand why you need their help, and ask them to do that. That'll give them some confidence to help them get through the stress point. The way to connect with them, so just talk about how much you value how much they care and how much they try to get along with other people. Talk to them about their compassion, their heart. That'll go a long way to connecting with somebody that's the S-wired personality style. The last one are C's. Again, these are your engineers, your architects, your CPAs. Very analytical, logical, neat and organized. They will like my personality style. I need these people in my life, because without a C in my life, I'm never going to get anything finished. I need a C person in my life right now to help me finish writing my book. That's going to keep me committed to and on track to doing it. They're perfectionists. I talked earlier about the paralysis of analysis. Again, they want everything buttoned up before they'll commit to something. This personality style also tends to want to they want to process things before they speak. So my personality style, I will talk things out. I'll talk things through. So understand the different personality styles. Some of them, if you ask them a question and they're silent for a while, especially with the C personality style, give them that opportunity to just be comfortable in silence. And for those of you that are in sales, this is a great understanding that it's not that they're dismissing their question. they're just processing before they make an answer, because again, their biggest fear is being criticized. They're not going to say something that they can't fully back up, that they haven't completely baked mentally before it comes out of their mouth. So under stress, again, back to the paralysis of analysis, super cautious, can be critical, can be pessimistic, can do some blame shifting. Well, you know, it was because sales didn't get this to me, I couldn't get my report out on time. And then they will resort to policy manuals, and just this is the way it's supposed to be, when they're under stress. Give them something to research. You know, put them down in front of Google and ask them to look up something, and they'll be in their element. And the way to connect with them, just talk to them about how you appreciate that they're so organized, and that they listen to what others have to say, and how they, you know, they're always excelling at what they do. So, you know, unlocking our potential is, you know, setting them up for future success, impacting their ability to experience connection, understand their strengths, behavior styles, and motivations. So that's pretty much my presentation this morning. There we go. That's me. So what questions do we have? Let's see if I can stop sharing my screen. Stop share. There we go.
All right, I want to let everyone know, our attendees, to use the Q&A if you have questions for William. And for our organizers, if you can use the chat, please. William, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, William. As always, that is a great presentation. You can use it for any age group, business, relationships, anything, right?
Yeah, like I said, it's that self-awareness and emotional intelligence is the cornerstone of every relationship you'll ever have, personally and professionally. So once you understand it, and you start being aware of things, then you can be aware of how to avoid situations that may not come out in the best interest.
Okay, we have a question here from Dave. It says, can you compare DISC with Clifton Strengths as a way to understand people?
Strength Finders is talking about what your strengths are. With DISC, we're looking at personality styles. So where do you excel? Where do you have challenges? One of the things that we look at is and I don't have the graphic available, but it's called the Johari window. It talks about what we know versus what other people know, and where we're trying to get to what we call the arena, which is where we both have the same understanding. We actually incorporate some strength in the Maxwell method of DISC, which is what I use, are the output that we have. We actually have something we call the power DISC, which rates people on seven levels of their strength of 7 levels of leadership. So we've actually done some work with Marcus Buckingham, who developed Strength Finders to do that. But it's they're similar but different. It's just like the difference between Myers-Briggs or predictive index or things like that. I always tell clients that as long as you're doing something to kind of benchmark where you are, is where your starting point is, that your world's ahead, because the vast majority of people in the world have no clue what their strengths or weaknesses are. I hope that answered your question. It's they're similar but different, so they'll measure some, like I said, some different things.
Okay, and from Adrian, are people always grouped into one of these 4 categories? Absolutely not.
In fact, I realize I missed that on there. We all have all 4 personality styles in us, just to varying degrees. When the reports that I generate will have 3 graphs that will graph each one of the 4 points on the graph. And one of them is who we are in public, what we think our public self is, what the world expects of us. The other one is what we feel like we are in private. So what can be our mask, And then the other one is how that comes together when we're under stress. So it's always interesting to look at someone's report and see how the different graphs, how they change between, you know, what we think we're supposed to be versus what we feel like we are, and then how do we respond under stress. So no, we all have all four styles in us, just to varying degrees.
Okay, thank you. We have a comment from Amy. It says, thank you, William. Great stuff. I've been thinking I was a D for a long while, but now I'm thinking I'm an A, an I. Personality, work, and emotional intelligence are fascinating.
Well, and also understand that these can be situational. So like, for example, if I'm doing something with an executive at home or at work rather, and they say, you know what, this would be great for my family. You know, they hear this presentation and say, oh, I didn't think about doing this, you know, for my kids and my spouse. So I may have them retake the assessment and understand this is not a test, it's an assessment. We're not testing, you know, it's not a pass, fail, right, wrong, good or bad. It's just helping us understand our differences. So we have assessments that we do on children as young as 8 years of age. And with the younger kids, we call it the Student Success Report. And it's designed to help them understand, you know, where do you get your energy from? So like Deidre gets her energy from these types of activities. William gets his energy from this type of activity. Sandra over here and Joe's over there. And one's not good or bad or right or wrong. They're just different. So the beauty of this with the younger students, helping them start to develop that self-awareness, it's a wonderful thing, because if you think about some of the issues we have, like around bullying, for example, if you've got a kid that's fully self-aware of who they are, where they get their energies from, what they're good at, and that they're okay with, you know what, Deidre's stuff is different from mine, but it's not like, again, it's not good, bad, right, or wrong. They're just different. And a bully comes up to them on the playground and says, you're this, that, or the next thing. And they go, no, I'm not. Game over. So and if you get that child that's maybe a little more aggressive, that's uncomfortable with it in their own skin, and they're going to bully, well, once they start to understand themselves, they don't have to act that way. It can change the bully into somebody that can be more inclusive. So.
Okay, and Adrian just wanted to thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
From Dave, it says, William, how long does the assessment take to get the report with the 3 spots? It seems more detailed than just a simple exercise to see where we think we might be.
Absolutely, yeah. And Maxwell has built the output on the different life cycles or different oriented towards different things. So, for example, we have the Student Success Report, which is designed for kids that, like I said, are about 8 to maybe 13. We've got one for high school and college age students, or people that are kind of mid-career transition. We call it college and career. And it assesses, you know, based on the way you're naturally wired, what might be a good field of study or career choice for you. And it's 40 pages. So and then we just have what we call the Maxwell Personality Index, and that's about 30 pages. We have some that are based on communication, based on leadership. So depending upon what we're looking for in terms of output, like my coaching clients, all my coaching clients will do just the basic DISC report before we start the coaching arrangement. But to answer the question directly, the assessment shouldn't take more than 10 or 12 minutes. There's only about 25 or 30 questions in there. If you take longer than that, you're overthinking it. So I always tell clients before they take the assessment, you know, when you read through it, answer the first thing that comes into your mind. Don't stop there and say, well, if I did this or did that, or maybe in this situation. No, whatever, it asks the question, whatever your first thought is, that's what your answer is. But then in terms of to receive the output, I get a copy of the report within 30 seconds of the client finishing it. And then I email it directly, the link directly back to the client, so they'll have it within a few minutes. I'm assuming I'm at my desk. I mean, worst case, it'd be, you know, by the end of the day.
Okay. And from Darlisa, what has been your greatest experience in delivering the assessment?
The greatest experience was my own. You know, it was, in part, when I tell my story, you know, I talk about, you know, my relationship with my dad and him being the engineer and everything. There were things that I just kind of intuitively learned as a kid growing up. Like I said earlier, if I wanted to ask mom or dad for their response to my questions was vastly different. But knowing my dad was an engineer and they're very detail oriented. When I first got into professional sales, I worked for Prudential Insurance. I sold crew care. And going through training, I realized that architects and engineers got our best rates because they didn't do anything dangerous. So I called on them, but I would literally sit in my car before I go into a meeting and go through the mantra in my head. They think like dad, they think like dad, they think like dad. And I just knew intuitively that they were going to ask me a ton of questions. And it wasn't because they were challenging me. It was just because my personality style didn't consider all the details that they wanted. And that I would answer the questions, and it was more acceptable. I mean, and it's always the best thing. If you don't know the answer, say, look, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. Get them the information, give them time to follow up because they need to process, and then follow up with them. And you know, I was pretty successful doing that. And then fast forward more years than I will admit on camera, until I started studying this, and I go, oh, okay, that's dad, that's me, that's why this worked. So yeah, the revelation, the internal revelation was absolutely the most impactful. But it's, I've got a guy that's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for almost 40 years, and his company hired me to coach him because he had some challenges relationally with clients, and he was forward facing in a safety role, and to go through and to do the assessment and the coaching with my friend. And to watch him have those aha moments. So, it's every time I work with a client, their ahas are different, but they're always there. So it's like everybody's different. So every experience is different, but the most impactful was my own.
Thank you. And from Sandra, she says, William, emotional intelligence is such a hot topic these days. How does emotional intelligence and the DISC assessment fit together?
Well, understanding how we respond under pressure is essentially what emotional intelligence is. I always go back to Viktor Frankl's quote about, between stimulus and response, man has the ability to think. And unfortunately, a lot of times people don't take that opportunity. They react. So to be able to learn how to respond to things as opposed to reacting to them. The analogy that I use is like if you've got front row seats right behind the dugout at the Rangers game, and when there's some stimulus comes at you, it's like a line drive foul ball coming right at your head. And because you have cat-like reflexes, you get that glove up, you catch that ball before it bangs you in the head, and you have the opportunity to turn it over and interrogate it, look at it, think about it. So it's teaching people and helping people understand that they have that ability. They choose whether they're going to use that or not. But again, it's a matter of awareness. If they're not aware that they have that choice, or at least consciously aware, we all probably internally know that we have the ability to respond however we want. And one of the things I teach people is the only way somebody can make you upset or really tick you off is if you give them the authority to do that. And by it's like the bully on the playground. If the kid says, well, no, I'm not. Well, now he's just diffused that situation. But that's because we've given that child the emotional intelligence to be able to interrogate that thought, dismiss it as not being true, and throw it back. And it goes away. So did that answer your question?
You know what, this helps with learning how to, you said it before, interact with others. Because like when I saw the DISC, one of my sisters, is definitely opposite the IF. And we butted heads all the time until I understood, taking this assessment, oh, this is where I'm at, and this is why she irritates me. And so now I need to learn how to respond in a way that's not negative, because I know who she is, I know who I am, and I know who she is. And so how can we, you know, and it works most of the time.
It works all the time if you'll use it.
Sometimes I haven't used it, but most of the time I do use it. But it helps, because if you know where you are in that category or percentage, because I'm a high percent of the D and the S, and she is way. She's not C. She's way over there, like, oh, you know. And I'm like, okay, you told me you get this done. You didn't get it done. Now we got an issue. But all that to say, that doesn't happen as often anymore, because I choose to respond to her on a different level than I would expect me to respond.
Part 3 in Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's some really, he talks about his relationship with his kids in there, and talks about how to really connect with them emotionally, and to make them, to hold them accountable the way they want to be held accountable for it. Because I think, you know, with raising our kids want to have something to do. They want to feel like they're part of something. And we all do. We all want to feel like we're part of something greater. And to be able to connect with somebody emotionally and to understand them. You know, we talk about the golden rule, you know, doing to others the way you want to do people to do to you. Well, we talk about the platinum rule, do to people the way they want to be done too. So it's that then, when you begin with the end in mind where both people can win, and you start off with understanding what their fears and concerns are, and really, you know, listen, seek first to understand before you try to be understood. And if we could approach things that way, man, we could change this world. You know, I've just built up a piece on diversity and inclusion, and that's a big part of it. Is just look, if we can just stop listening to all this noise around us and sit down and have a conversation, at the end of the day, we're all looking for pretty much the same thing. We want to be able to provide for our families in a safe environment, put a little away for a rainy day, and just live our lives. But there's so much noise out there, and we stop listening to people because we have to be right. It's like on the back of some of my spiral notebooks, I have a 6 drawn, and you guys have heard me talk about perspective. You know, it's like this. If this is a topic of conversation, and if you're talking about this pen and all you're describing is the clip, and what I'm seeing is just the barrel, we think we're talking about 2 separate things because we're listening to respond, not to understand. And if we could just put down our need to be right long enough to say, you know what, maybe they see something that I don't see, and we can have that conversation with respect for each other, then there's not a problem in this world we can't solve. And that's why I use the tagline, I build better humans, because that's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do, is to help people be able to have, you know, hard conversations, but respectfully. So. What other questions do we have?
It looks like that's all we have right now. Does anybody else have anything that they want to pop in here?
Well, put your contact information in the box, please. Okay, well, thank you for that presentation. It was amazing as usual. So are there any community announcements that need to be announce, please put that in the chat box as well. Thank you, Amy. I believe Dennis Miller is present. He usually has some events that are going on Fridays.
Yes, Deidre, I was just typing that up. For Dennis is holding a pitch, how to evaluate your pitch and to practice it directly after 1 Million Cups. And the Zoom for that meeting is, I'll finish typing that in. There you go. I should have known he'd be ahead of me. Good job. So,
let's see.
I'm gonna take mine off. So, there we go. And he's right above me, right where I was. And then
Amy Razor, we have the Better Business Bureau networking on Wednesdays at 3, and she has the link there. Got Williams in there. Amy also does consultations with businesses, and you can schedule one with her.
LeBeau put on previously that if there's someone in the audience who wants to speak, to either get in touch with Deidre or me. And my email address is sgbarron13@sbcglobal.net. Deidre, you want to give us yours?
Yeah, I'm gonna toss one out real quick while she's typing.
Okay.
I'm doing the Live to Lead with John Maxwell again this year. We got kind of a late start because we were trying to figure out the logistics of in person versus live. It's October 9th, which is 3 weeks from Friday. 2 weeks, 3 weeks from Friday. We'll be doing a live event at Seven City Church, and I'll put this on the Facebook page. We're doing a live event at Seven City Church at Lancaster and Curry, but it's also available virtually. It's $79. We're going to have John Maxwell. We'll have Alan Malawi, the guy was the Ford turnaround guy, Kat Cole, Steve Harvey, and I forget the other guy. But those great lineup. Every year it's a tremendous lineup. But it's a half day workshop on leadership development, personal development, just goal setting and just good stuff. So I'm having videos and headshots done this afternoon for that to get it all online. But Amy said she attended last year. Yes, she did. Again, just a great event, and looking forward to getting that out. So the virtual will be, you can watch it immediately or live, but it'll also be available for 72 hours after the event, so you can watch it as many times as you want over the weekend.
Okay, and Joe wants to remind us about Toastmasters. You go to toastmasters.org and find a club in your area. Amy wanted to tell us that the Better Business Bureau is also hosting a professional women's conference with a great lineup of speakers, and that's for $25. We've got Deidre's information there for your nurse advocates.
That's how I prefer people to contact me, even though I still am a Legal Shield Business Solutions Associate. I respond better to that particular email. Darlisa, are you able to tell about building better businesses together?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Darlisa Diltz with the North Texas Entrepreneur Training Center. And we have been doing every first and third Thursday, we bring on guest commentators to talk about topics specific to growth and development for your business through the Go Small Biz training platform. And tomorrow morning, we have guest Victor Johnson, who is going to be our guest commentator, and we will be talking about business contracts, ways to navigate them, understanding, et cetera, et cetera. So if you are available, join us for the live stream, 9 o'clock tomorrow on Facebook, and I put the link in the chat box.
Thelma, you have anything else?
No, ma'am. I'm good.
Okay, as always, we thank you all for your time and attendance. We are always looking for presenters to speak, and we are always looking for speakers to educate our community. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns about that, or you know someone who is a presenter, has a small business, they think they're out there all alone, they don't know where to get the resources, have them contact myself or Sandra. And if you are an educational speaker, advisor, or something like that, please contact Sandra and I for more details so we can see what we can inform you what the qualifications are to be a speaker educator for 1 Million Cups. And without further ado, we'll see you guys next Wednesday at 9 a.m. with another great presentation. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, William. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Good night, John Boy. Good night, Mary Ellen.
Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
Oh, my goodness.